Conversations. I'm Dr. Jerome Dorn in the House Media House Call here at the Apex Museum on historic Auburn Avenue in downtown Atlanta. We have some distinguished guests with us today, Dr. Apostle Veryl Howard and Romaine Waite. Okay, so Dr. Howard, tell us a little bit about yourself first.
Wow, it's so hard for me to talk about me because
You can
part
do it. You can
I
do
can
it.
do it
Yeah, you can do it.
because part of my job is branding and marketing and publicizing everybody else.
Else.
So it's kind of hard to talk about me. But I'm just going to say I'm a blessed woman of God because I think of all the stuff I've been through. I mean, I was born crippled, had some challenges growing up
Mm-hmm.
and not really knowing who I am. And just to be able now to own a company called Faith Management and Talent, where I work in the film division with casting and producing. And also, I've been blessed to manage national recording singers and film directors and be an actress. So,
All that, yeah.
yeah, and
Many, many hats.
many hats. And it's weird because it all came after going to school endlessly. So I tell people you're not too old to really find your purpose because I went to school to be a doctor, to have all these science
Wow.
degrees and
Okay.
masters and went on, and then I got my doctorates in theology. I'm also a pastor apostle, but I'm really finally walking in my purpose,
Okay.
which blows my mind.
Blows you, man. Okay, okay. So I had some questions here. What inspired you to find faith management, and how did you carve out your niche in the competitive industry as it is?
That's a great question
Okay.
because from a little girl, I always wanted to be in entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad went to dental school, and my mother was a professor. And they were like, no, you're going to college, you're going to do da 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 da.
Right.
And so, because I was born crippled, my mom was told by the doctor, you need to put her in things that help with her balance. So I did tap dancing, I did jazz, I did ballet, I rode horses, I did karate.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so somewhere in there, I became interested in the entertainment arena as a little girl. And then I'm about to tell my age right now.
Okay.
I was in a tap dancing competition with a friend of mine named Pat. It was the Bubbling Brown Sugar tap dancing contest when I was a little girl,
Okay.
and they were looking for kids to take with them. And my friend and I were a part of that. And so later on, having this disability, I
Mm-hmm.
started modeling, believe it or not,
Okay.
because my parents had my legs broken completely out because they were going backwards.
Backwards. Okay.
And so I started modeling, and I was in a lot of beauty pageants. And Joe Frazier actually sponsored me
Okay.
in Miss Black America. So
Smoking Joe.
Smoking Joe,
Yeah, yeah.
yes.
I'm from Philly, so I'm
Oh,
very, well
Broad
aware. Yeah,
Street. You
Broad
know what I'm
Street.
talking
Okay.
about?
Yeah.
Yeah, he sponsored me. I would go up to his little gym on Broad Street. And so as time went on, even though I went to school to be a doctor and got all these science degrees, paleontologist, used to
Mm-hmm.
dig fossils, cornea transplant technician, all this stuff I got, I still went back
Back
to
to
entertainment.
entertainment. Right.
And that's how I got there. And so I end up, while I was doing all these other things, somewhere along the line, I got saved. I got
Mm-hmm.
into God. And He started directing my path. And so I ran into these,
Won't he do that?
He would do it.
Ooh.
Because I didn't know who I was. I'm
Yeah.
being honest. I was walking in somebody else's personality
Mm-hmm.
or the personality my parents
Parents.
wanted for
Right.
me.
Right.
And so when I met them, they were doing Tyler Perry's plays. And this was before Tyler blew up.
Blew up. Right.
And so I started working with them doing marketing, promotions,
Yeah.
publicity, casting. David Talbot, who's now a film producer as
Okay.
well, Emmanuel Seegers, all these play directors. And I was like, man, I found my niche.
Okay.
And somebody gave me an opportunity. His name was Joe Meacham. He just passed recently. He gave me an opportunity to work with national plays, publicizing them and casting them. And then after that, it just went.
It just goes. When you spiritually grounded, that's gonna happen.
Yes.
And that's my story as well.
Wow.
That's my story.
Wow.
I have a book of poetry out, and it's Poetry of Trials and Tribulation Reflections from the trap house to the White House.
Mm.
Okay,
What you say?
straight out the streets of North Philadelphia. Okay,
Mm.
not supposed to be here.
Mm.
Not supposed to be here.
I know those streets well.
Okay.
I did because I haven't been perfect, and I like to
Okay.
keep stuff raw. But I know those streets, and I watch what happens now. You know, with those drugs. You know, people just laying out on the
On the street,
ground.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just I saw it even on my way over here. But I know those streets because at some point I got caught up.
Okay.
I got caught up into some things that shouldn't have got caught
Caught
up
up in.
in. Because I went to school to be a doctor in Philadelphia.
Okay. Temple
I,
University.
I went to Pennsylvania College of
That's right. Okay.
Optometry, and
Okay.
we were in a dual degree program
Mm-hmm.
with Hahnemann Medical
Oh,
School.
okay.
And at some
You know
point,
Hannum is not there no more.
no, I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
Hannum is gone. Building's empty.
Wow.
Yeah. Hannum is gone.
No. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
But I spent years in Philadelphia,
Mm-hmm.
and as time went on, because I wasn't into the Lord at that time, so I was dating Philadelphia Eagles, hanging out, kicking it, and I would go down South Street. I don't know if your audience can handle what I'm about to say, but South Street, and then I would go to a certain side of Philly, and I'd pick me up some drugs
Okay.
in medical school.
North Philadelphia.
North
Oh, I
Philadelphia.
know.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know this.
You know, and God had to deliver me because I was half my size.
Okay.
Hey, Doc, how you doing, Doc?
What's up?
And
Yeah.
that's how good God is because I don't look like nothing as to what I've been through, just like you.
All right. So you transitioned from managing top recording artists to taking on acting roles in productions like Double Cross and BET's Wesley Christmas Story. What motivated you to step into the spotlight, and how did those opportunities transform your career?
It was hard again because I had become so used to pushing and marketing and promoting everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
But I still had the burning desire in me to act and do entertainment.
Yeah.
And so, with me working with all these different directors, playwrights, film directors, you know, they saw something in me that I thought was gone because I'm over 50. I'm actually over 55. And so, one of them said to me, I was casting, I'm also a casting director. I was casting Double Cross. And she said, Crystal Gibson, she's a writer, director, creator, number one show for 5 years on All Black Stars, We TV. I got to do a shout out, you know.
Yes, definitely. Shout
Oh,
it out.
I got to do that because we've been number one. And she said to me, I have a role for you. I was like, what? She said, oh, yeah, you're going to be one of the mothers. And I was like, oh, my goodness. And I was casting. And so I did my role. And to the point where
Yeah.
I did that role. And so then another friend of mine, I was working with her husband for with the play business.
Mm-hmm.
We were traveling with David Talbot. Got to give a shout out to him. Chuck West. They own Octet. They said to me, they're the ones that did Wesley. They're like, we have a role for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so they started calling me. Excuse me. They started calling me when I thought that dream was over with because this is something I wanted to do from a child. And God said, no, it's now your timing, your season. He said, you better walk in this before it's too late, before your hair goes from white to black to white to pink, to, you know,
Yeah.
because you're getting older.
Absolutely.
And so they started calling me, and not only did directors want me working on it, they wanted me to act and be a part of it. And so I just finished doing a documentary film with some ladies, and I was asked to be in that, you know, and this is how it's been happening. And God is just doing it. And you know what? I'm being obedient and I'm walking in it because this was a dream from 5 years
and
old.
that tells me you're spiritually grounded. You know, definitely. You know, because like I say, that's been my path. I didn't,
Wow.
you know, my profession is law enforcement.
Okay.
I'm from the state police, feds, the whole, and while in the military in Vietnam, I picked up my first camera, but that's always been like, you know, there, but it's been, it turned out to be my passion.
Mm.
You know? So, okay, you united your passion for acting and embrace plus size modeling on the international runways at 55. Can you share the challenges you face making that transition?
You studied. You studied. You are prepared. Wow. Well, back in the day when I was doing the pageants, I was modeling and I was half my size. Again, I thought I was too old. And a designer saw me and asked me if I would model her clothing in Fashion Week. And so I said, "What, God? You making me model at this age?" And of course, when I model, I'm about 15 pounds smaller. And even though I'm a plus size is anything after a 4. So like
Okay.
6, 8, 10. And a woman would say, "But you're not fat, but this is plus."
Plus, okay.
And so she asked me to model her stuff. So I modeled for Fashion Week, Milan, Paris.
Wow.
Yeah, I've been blessed to be able to model. So once I shed, my 15, 20 pounds again, you might see me
You
on
might
one of
see you
those.
back on the road.
Yes.
Okay.
Now you asked the challenge. Now here's the challenge.
Okay.
The ones I was modeling with were 18,
Okay.
20, size 0, size 2,
Okay.
6'1", 6'2". And if it wasn't for me being a plus size model, I might not have been in that number. And God created a way for me to be able to model again. So that was the challenge.
Okay. Having worked with notable industry figures and companies such as Dem Gibson Films, Outlet Films, Tyler Perry, and Mark Limsky, what lessons have you learned from these collaborations that continue to influence you?
I learned from people who had a vision, didn't know how they were going to get from point A to point B, that if you stick to it and you believe, especially if God spoke it over you, it's going to come to pass. Mark Linsky, he did those Coming to America series,
Right.
and I've had a chance to be in his company and work with him and everything else. And to see them persevere to the heights and the levels and the depths, because them Gibson films, being number one, that's a big ordeal. And Octet has probably shot over 45 films. That's a lot.
Wow.
And I've worked with
Yeah.
some other producers as well. Like I told you, David Talbert. He's over that HBCU series.
Okay.
And he's just got, I do believe he's about to shoot something else. But all those film directors I've worked with, I have learned how to keep pressing when it looks like it's not going to happen. When nobody believes in your vision. When it looks like you're not
You
going
have
to
to
get the
believe.
money.
You have to believe.
You have to
You have to
believe.
believe.
And I've learned that. Persevere. Because there's been days where I just like, I'm done. I can't do this. This is too hard for me. Nobody's helping me. Nobody's opening doors for me. And then God said to me, I'm going to open the door. So walk through what I opened for you and keep pressing and keep holding on and keep trusting, and it's going to happen.
And it's going. Okay. So, as a pastor who believes that ministry extends beyond the church, how do you integrate your spiritual beliefs with your work in the entertainment industry?
I look at it as my work is my assignment. I was on
Okay.
set with Double Cross, and I get a chance to intermingle with the actors. And some folk are not coming in the church building. And I recall in LA, I was sitting next, just ministering to one of the actors, because when I come on the set, they know I'm a pastor. They're like, the pastor's here, and they feel some type of peace or protection, you know what I mean? And when I go on sets, there's been times like Jasmine Guy, we were shooting a movie, and after we shot, the Lord told me to pray with them. So Jasmine and Dorian Wilson from the Parkers, well, Jasmine, I was praying for her, and Dorian said, I want you to pray for me, and so I've been able to be used in that manner with some great people. I mean, I ran into Bobby Brown. I mean, I just got a list of great celebrities the Lord allows me to pray with. And I believe that's my assignment. And I believe that's why he gave it to me at this age. I wasn't a pastor at 5. I wasn't a pastor at 20. I wasn't even into the Lord at 25. I was in drugs.
Drugs.
So I believe the right timing, right season. And I'm bold. You can take me. I will go minister to anybody. Cardi B, you name it.
Okay.
And I'll be fine with that and still love the Lord when I come out that atmosphere.
Okay. With accolades ranging from Joe Biden Presidential uh, Lifetime Achievement Award to honors like Glitz Girl Power and the Key to the City of Alexandria, how do you stay focused on your mission in such a high profile status?
Humility. One of the biggest honors I got, I was happy with the Joe Biden Award, but one of the biggest honors I didn't even mention on there. There's a country called St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and the country gave me the key to the country.
Wow.
I was like the first woman to preach in a stadium of over 5,000 people because women preachers were not popular there. And I used to take pastors over there to bring supplies and work with the government. That was one of my biggest honors because to give me a key to your country and say I'm welcome to come in and out at any time. And that did something to me. And then I've been blessed, like in Bermuda. I manage a group out of Bermuda, and one of their relatives is an assistant to the premier of the whole country.
Okay.
And I bought some record execs to Bermuda, and they were having a private parliamental meeting, and they invited me and the folks I brought with me to sit in their meeting and address the governmental officials. And I don't think that would have happened if I didn't stay humble. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so the humility before God is what's blowing my mind, and He's doing it.
Okay.
That's how I stay grounded.
As a mentor to emerging artists, managers, and the community leaders, what advice would you give those striving to make a difference both in their careers and in their communities?
Well, if you're going to work with other people's careers, like I'm a midwife, so I help other people birth what they're trying to birth. And I tell up and coming managers all the time, you have a lot of patience. And also, if you're going to work with other people's visions, you got to decipher that each one is uniquely made. And even though you have a template, you can't make that the master template without adjustments. Because you have to deal with people's visions and purpose the way they've been given it and look at it like it's your own to help them get from point A to point B. But I would say have patience with different personalities. Um, don't give up. Don't get tired. My bank account has been zero or beyond zero. It's been negative. And I was like, how am I going to survive? But I just kept believing that God was going to bring this thing to pass. And then all of a sudden, I was very careful what I spoke, too. You got to be careful what you speak. Because there were times I was speaking, oh, you're not going to make it. Oh, you're tired. Oh, you're weary. Oh, you're sick. Oh, you're this. And there's power in that tongue, life or death in that tongue. So sometimes you just got to speak over you. You can do it. Self, keep pushing. Hang in there. And God has been my motivating factor. And then God has sent angels my way that'll say, I've been watching you. You know what I mean?
I'm watching over you.
Yes. People like angels, people, they'll say, girl, I've been watching you for 30 years. You still hanging in there? You ain't killed yourself yet? We've been praying for you. People like that who you don't even know want to see you make it. And then 10 years later, they'll say to you, I'm proud of you. So that also.
Okay. Now, reflecting on your impressive journey, what final message or piece of wisdom would you like to share?
Well, if you're not a believer, I'm just going to say it. Find God, because that's been my source. Because before I knew Him, I was suicidal. I was depressed. I told you I had a handicap. I had a lot going on.
Okay.
And so He put me back on track. And so that's one of the things I would tell you. Find the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, please. And also find somebody that you really can trust, who believes in you, to hold your hands and walk this journey with you. We shouldn't always be an island. There's somebody who wants to see you make it, even though we're in this tough world where it doesn't seem like it. God got something. I mean, just like you open up this platform to me. You didn't have to. You see what I mean? That is sowing into what God has called me to do. God touched your heart. And I still believe, I refuse to believe there's not people out there like yourself who want to see somebody else make it. Get connected to the right people and then give.
Yeah,
Give to
that's
others.
the key.
Give to
Yeah,
others.
you know, we have so many gatekeepers out there that's just like, all you have to do is give and you'll receive.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm. Give to others.
Mhm.
You know, and it'll come a long way. And that's one of, in the season I'm in right now,
Mhm.
I'm trying to be a giver, not
Okay.
just trying to take. I'm trying to see where do I need to give.
Okay.
So that's crucial. That
Okay.
would be my advice.
All right. So there you have it. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we're back with our other special guest, Romaine Waite. Right?
Yes, sir.
Correct. Okay. So tell us a little bit about Romaine.
Romaine is a dreamer, a believer, a diligent seeker, um, but I'm also a Jamaican.
Okay, man. Nice.
I'm from Jamaica, and I'm an actor and filmmaker as well. And I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Okay, thank you for coming. So, okay, getting right into it. Share with us how growing up in Montego Bay and later in Canada shaped your perspective on life and performance.
Wow, we're gonna go way back.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't think performance or the arts really showed up on my radar until much later.
Hmm.
And by much later, I mean high school.
Okay.
And what's interesting about that, and what I mean by radar is the conscious
Conscious
effort
to do
to
it
do it.
right.
Up until that point, I was always that kid,
Okay.
you know what I mean, who would, be friendly and outgoing and sometimes get himself in trouble.
That's well. Okay.
But, other people would see things in me and say certain things like, oh, I can see you on TV, or you might be doing this one day, or you might be like this person.
Hmm.
But it never really clicked. It wasn't something that was really tangible for me. Then fast forward in my high school years, I did a little bit of theater, a few plays here and there. Again, feeling good and confident about it, having, affirmations from other people, but still it never clicked.
That's great.
It
Okay.
never clicked as something that I would do as a career option. So, I went to continued my schooling and whatnot. And then it wasn't until I was casted in an indie film,
Hmm.
you know, by a mutual friend that um, going through that whole experience, it was just one of those aha moments, like,
Yeah.
oh, this is what this is,
Hmm.
And having gone through that experience of, from concept, or sort of from casting rather, to production, to post-production, and then into, the premiere of the film, it was only then that I realized that this is something that could be done.
Because funny you mentioned that. What was it about the high school drama that first ignited your passion for acting, and when did you realize that, hey, this is it? This is what I'm gonna do.
So yeah, again, let me go back to the high school portion. It was the teachers at
Hmm.
the time. I had my English teacher, um, was a wonderful woman that endured my behavior,
Okay.
in the classroom, because she was an English teacher, but she also did drama.
Okay.
And so it was her recommendation to say, why don't you come down and do
Check
and do
this
this?
out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and come and check this out. Now, prior to that, and in and around that time, I was doing, a few things at church,
Hmm.
getting up in front of the congregation, reciting Bible verses and things like that,
Okay.
in other creative aspects. But it was that interaction with the teacher, that intention that said, hey, come down and
Do this.
do
Yeah.
this thing.
Yeah.
You know,
She saw
she
something.
saw something.
She saw
Yeah.
something. Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah. So after your initial experience with in theater and indie films, what inspired you to make the transition into television?
Oh man, I think that was just by necessity,
This,
you
okay.
know, and by proximity as
Yeah.
well. You start to explore the entirety of that medium, the
Hmm.
longer that you're in it, and so television was the next natural step.
Yeah. So what were some of the challenges And how did that prepare you for this big screen?
You know what? The challenges were many, but a lot of it was self-inflicted in the sense of really understanding the craft
Okay.
of storytelling and acting and writing and directing, whatever it may be, but really understanding the craft and putting your intention behind it, but also being consistent,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And so it took time to recognize where my strengths were
Mm-hmm.
and how to consistently apply those strengths. But once that happened, yeah, it was a game changer.
Okay, with a body work that includes shows like The Murdoch Mysteries on CBS and Stephen King's adaptation, The Mist on
Hmm.
Netflix,
Hmm.
how have these diverse roles influenced your approach as an actor?
I think they've allowed me to tap into specific emotion that I wouldn't necessarily do on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
I think any good actor is revealing parts of themselves in the circumstances of the story or circumstances of the script. And so, there are times where you have to, just be as open
Open.
and honest as possible. And I think that's how I've grown and that's how I've changed, is to tap into some of those places that I normally wouldn't.
Okay. So, can you describe your experience working alongside Isaiah Whitlock
Oh
Jr.
my
and
goodness.
Sutherland in The Mist?
Yeah, listen, Isaiah Whitlock Jr., those that are watching might recognize him from The Wire,
Okay.
in his experience over there, and many other films and television series as well. But you want to talk about somebody who is just so genuine and down to earth, but also willing to share and to impart. Even after we wrapped that series, I reached out to him a couple times to assist me in a couple of projects and just to chop it up as well. And he was always open and available. And that's something I took away from that experience with him, was that, despite what you see, on camera
Camera,
and the
right.
status and whatever, you
Mm-hmm.
still got to be grounded, man.
Grounded,
You still
right.
got to be open and willing to receive and to give as well.
Okay, what was it like collaborating with Idris Elba?
Oh my gosh. So here's, all right, let me be honest. Let me be honest with this one
Okay.
here. I never got to meet him. So Idris, I'm here. If you want to connect, we could do that. But he was an executive producer
Producer, okay.
of a film called Christmas Divas, the Christmas Diva, which featured Ashanti, Vivica A. Fox, Robin Givens, and a few other great names as well. So he was executive producer of that. His production company called Green Door Pictures.
Mm-hmm.
They partnered for that film for Lifetime. Oh, sorry, my mistake. VH1.
Very okay. Okay. So you've expanded your talents into writing and producing. With your second feature film.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Um, what motivated you to step into those roles? You've done the acting and everything. Now you
Yeah,
produce.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, come on, give it to us.
Again, it's proximity,
Okay.
right? Being on set, um, being on set, I get to see other individuals in those roles,
Mm-hmm.
and I get to ask them questions, and I get to learn from their experiences. And I think naturally we're all storytellers in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I think what writing is simply being able to filter that into 90 or 120 pages so that everyone can understand the concept and the journey of whatever it is you're trying to explain. But for me, I'd always been writing,
Mm-hmm.
but I kept it to myself. And so these opportunities to make films were me finally going, it's time to share.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. You're known for choosing projects that tell true to life stories
Hmm.
and spark meaningful dialogue.
Hmm.
Okay. What drives this commitment?
It's what I want to receive,
Okay.
you know? I think it's important for people to receive and to give truth. And so that's something I'm very keen on with the work. Yeah.
So, what advice would you give someone out there trying to walk the path that you walked?
Mm.
What would you tell them?
Pertaining to the arts, it's a constant journey, constant journey, not only outward in terms of the performance or sharing, but also inward. And so you have to allow yourself the grace to grow and to expand and to connect the dots in your life and in your mind and in your spirit, because it takes time to really fulfill who it is that you really are, you know. And so I would say really focus on the craft, whatever it is, writing, directing, acting, even if it's visual arts. Focus on the craft, build that skill. Through skill comes confidence, and with confidence, you know, that's what keeps you going. That gives you the momentum to keep moving forward.
Okay, well there you have it, folks. This is Dr. Doe in the House Media. See you later.